Okay, folks, welcome back. And I'm kind of shut down here on this project for right now, and it's because of the weather. It got cold. We had a Arctic front come in for the last couple of days, and it has been cold. And it's probably about in the 40s here. Actually, my thermometer on the garage wall says 54, but it feels like it's a lot colder than that. And it's not that I mind working in the cold, but I covered this in a previous video. And the problem is the epoxy that I need to use to bond all of this stuff together. It has a temperature range, and right now it's just a little bit too cool to get in here and try and bond these parts together, because I'm afraid it would affect the way that the epoxy sets up, and it might affect the final strength after it has cured. I mean, it will cure, but I'm afraid it won't cure the way it should. So we're just going to have to wait until things warm back up before we get out here and work on this again. One thing I did do, and let me get the camera up a little bit closer here, is I came in here and cut these little grooves right here in all my notches. And the reason for that is because the epoxy needs a channel to flow through in order to get a good bite on these pieces of plywood. And on that previous segment, I had this rib in place. I took it down here so I could get all these little grooves cut. Kind of zoom in on that one right there. And the reason is I didn't want the epoxy to just sit on the surface ply. Remember, this is about 8 plies of real thin wood, and I didn't want the epoxy just sitting and bonding just to this top ply. I wanted it to go all the way through, kind of like having fingers reaching through and gripping and holding on around these corners here in these notches. Just to give it a little grip there. So I've been busy doing that, and I started off with a Dremel tool, and actually found that a rat tail file is actually faster. For whatever reason, a Dremel tool, besides being noisy and generating a lot of heat, throwing a lot of sawdust, I don't know, the rat tail file just seemed to make the job go faster, even though it was a little bit of a workout. And so I got that done. I did have to come in here on this rib, and I cut this center slot just a little too deep, so I had to come in here and bond in a little shim. Actually, it's about a little bit less than 1/8 of an inch right there. I went a little bit too deep there, but like I said, this stuff's easy to fix. So that's kind of where I'm at on the boat right now. As you can see, though, it is starting to take shape, and I've got these other stringers just laying here on the floor. I wanted to just keep them flat so they don't develop a warp. It's one thing I noticed about this Marandi plywood. If you let it sit in one position too long, it tends to stay in that position. So I want these flat. I want these nice and straight when I get ready to put them in. I've got this forward bulkhead ready to go in. Once I get those pieces, or I should say these pieces, set where I want them, then the forward bulkhead's ready to go in. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm just waiting for the weather to cooperate a little bit. So hopefully it'll warm up a little bit tomorrow. Like I said, it's been in my garage, it's been in the 40s and 50s. Now the outside temperature has been even colder. It's been oh good gosh, been down in the 30s. I think it never did get out of the 30s yesterday. So it's been pretty chilly here, and like I said, that does affect the epoxy. I do have a temperature range that I have to work within in order to get a good bond. So yeah, all we can do is wait. I wanted to read to you today a little devotional that I prepared. It's from Matthew chapter 11, and it picks up at verse 27. This is one of my life verses. And I have several verses in the Bible that I would consider to be life verses. But this, when I first started getting into Bible study and getting into reading the Bible years ago when I devoted my life to Christ, Matthew 11, 27, 28, 29, it's one of the very first verses that I committed to memory. So I just wanted to read that to you and then share some thoughts on it. Matthew 11, 27, 28, 29, and 30. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And that's Jesus talking to the people, talking to his disciples. Verse 27, he said, come to me, all who are weary and burdened. Now, after the year that we've been through, yeah, I would say we're a little weary right now. And I say, yeah, we're all probably feeling a little bit burdened right now. But unfortunately, in spite of the difficulties of this year, people are still, they're putting all their trust and hope and faith in all the wrong things. Now, I want to ask you a question here, and you don't have to Google this right now. You can look this up later, or just wait, and I'll give you the answer here in a moment. But I want to ask you a question. Who was the president of the United States in the year 1920? And like I said, I'll give you the answer to that in a moment. And I ask this because, people, I just mentioned a moment ago, they're putting their trust and their hope and faith in all the wrong things. They're putting their trust and their faith and their hope in political parties and even in ideologies like socialism. And, they're putting their trust in political leaders, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, other politicians. But regardless of who you voted for, regardless of whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever, and regardless of whether your candidate, the person you voted for, won or lost, there's an important truth that we need to remember. Unless Jesus Christ returns beforehand, I need to make sure, I throw that in there. Unless Jesus Christ returns beforehand, 100 years from now, when someone asks, who was the president in the year 2020? The people who are alive at that time will have to go back, they'll have to go look it up, because the political leaders who are alive today, the ones that the people are putting all their trust and their hope and their faith in, all those people, as a matter of fact, this whole generation, going to be long dead and gone by that time. They'll all be long dead and gone 100 years from now. And they will be footnotes in history, just like Woodrow Wilson, who was the president in the year 1920. Woodrow Wilson, by the way, he chose not to seek a third term. There were no term limits at that time. Warren G. Harding won the election in November of 1920. And yes, I had to go and Google all that information. Like I said, 100 years from now, all the political leaders and everyone that people are putting their trust in and they're pinning all their hopes on, all those people, they're just going to be footnotes in history, just like the politicians who were alive 100 years ago or 200 years ago. On the other hand, Jesus Christ is alive and he is seated at the right hand of the Father in heaven. Jesus is alive and well. He's resurrected, and he is in heaven right now. He is interceding for you. In those last two verses that I just read to you a while ago, Jesus said, take my yoke upon you and learn from me. And in other words, what Jesus is saying, he's saying, learn my ways. Learn about who I am. Learn how I want you to live your lives. Now, that's not all inclusive. Of course, there are many more applications, there in these verses. But basically, Jesus was saying that, he wants us to learn from him and learn the way that we should live. And so he was saying also that, you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, my burden is light. In other words, there are no rituals that we have to perform. There are no good deeds that we have to go out and do. As a matter of fact, you cannot earn your salvation. There's nothing we can do to earn our salvation. There aren't enough good works that we can do to earn salvation. Salvation is a free gift of grace. And all anyone needs to do in order to be saved is to place his or her trust in Jesus Christ and believe. That's why Jesus said, "My yoke is easy, my burden is light." Because anyone, and I mean anyone, can believe. And I want to thank you for watching this afternoon. And like I said, I will get back to you as soon as I get these pieces put together. But I just wanted to leave that devotional message with you. I hope 2021 is a better year for you. And just remember, God is in control, and God does love you. And as I say in every video, he wants a relationship with you. If you have any prayer requests, please leave those in the comments section. I do moderate my comments. I just don't have time to get into those back and forth discussions with detractors and anyone who would post comments which are critical, or people who want to just challenge my faith. I don't have time for that. So I do moderate my comments. But if you post those prayer requests, I will look at those comments, and I will go through them, and I will get them posted. So I want to thank you again. And like I said, the Lord loves you. And let's have a good 2021.